Okay, so good afternoon, everybody from Hue, Central Vietnam. My name is Hilton. I am the General Manager of Alba Wellness Valley. I am also the ambassador for World Wellness Weekend in Vietnam. And today we have a very, very special guest with us, coming all the way from, wow, well, she was in Canada, but actually now she's sitting in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. So we have Rosanne with us today, as you can see. I will allow her to introduce herself, and she is a mind of wellness information, doing personal consultation. Well, during COVID, you were all over the world on Zoom and online, telling me you're doing sessions with people. So it was really interesting. You actually came to us and did a session with us, and we're still talking about that today. So, yeah, with no further ado, I think I've said enough. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so thanks, Hilton. So yeah, I'm Rosanne Lee, and I'm sitting here in Ho Chi Minh City after our many months of lockdown and now open. I'm come from Canada, and I've been in Vietnam for 25 years, and I am the founder of a wellness center here in Ho Chi Minh City called Mandala Wellness, which I started in 2016, and it's a holistic concept, a platform whereby we try to bring a lot of different practitioners together from all over the world and in Vietnam, and we connect a pool of an audience in Vietnam and outside, and try to bring the two sides together.
So actually, that's how we kind of met through Mandala Wellness, because sometime back, way back when, before COVID time, we actually came there and we did some sessions. So that's how we kind of connected. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit more in detail before we go into some of your magic advice about wellness. Is what do you do at Mandala? What is the concept? How do people, what's it all about?
So yeah, Mandala is all about bringing people together. So from a practitioner point of view, we look at the four main pillars of wellness: spiritual, physical, mental, and physical, mental. And the fourth one is aesthetic. So we look at all those four main pillars and try to bring in different practitioners and different educational tools and workshops, and basically knowledge. Try to bring knowledge and information to the public. So we offer a lot of different kind of services and practitioners in each of those realms. So it could be anything from more like manual therapy, like physiotherapy, osteopathy, acupuncture, then move it on to like more spiritual, which is more on the energy realms, mindfulness, Reiki, all those kind of services. And then physical, like with movement, yoga, Pilates, all those kind of activities. So we try to combine all those different realms and different activities, and then try to offer that to the public, where individuals can either come into Mandala, or we can go out and do different programs for people, whether it's corporate programs or online, which we did during COVID. And we try to bring education so that people can learn more about wellness, as well as just, if you straight out want a treatment or a session, we try to offer that as well. So trying to educate the population, provide information so that if people kind of don't know where to start, then maybe give them tools to figure out what works for them and what they feel is going to be the main starting point. Because I think with wellness, or holistic and healing, all those things, there's no one particular like magic key that's going to unlock the dis-ease that comes in everyone's lives. So it's trying to give people and empower people to know what's happening within themselves, and then for that individual to be able to figure out what they want to do. So that is like from a physical center point of view. And then, we've done, like I said, we've also done big corporations. We've tried to bring in the concept of what is wellness to companies and bigger groups where people want to experience, and they just want to have more information in a smaller scale. And then from there, they'll be able to go on their wellness journey.
So basically, you kind of answered my next question before I even asked it. So I'm going to have to ask another question now. So now I've got to go through my mind and think of the next thing. Oh, no, she's blown me off. No. So I mean, I know you personally, and I know that you are a mind of information. So if I had to say to you, what should people do to be well? I think we'd be here for 3 hours. So maybe between the two of us, we can maybe come up with some ideas. You mentioned when you were talking about corporate wellness and working with different peoples that people don't know what to do, or why am I tired? Why am I putting on weight? Why do I not feel energetic? So maybe if we could start somewhere there and say, if someone was just wanting to make a change in their life, because I think it's the case for a lot of people now, because people really got shooken up by COVID and this big, your immune system, and everyone was freaking out. That now everyone wants to be healthy, which is great for us. We're very happy about that. So maybe if you could say, all right, what do you do to turn it around and become a bit of a healthier person? There you go.
Say, yeah, it's a big question. I could be here for hours. I think one of the key things is to kind of connect with yourself, look at what your lifestyle, and think about what you feel is, I think innately we all kind of know. I mean, for some people, they're just like, is it my mental illness? Is it mental health? Is it my physical wellness where I just need to exercise more? I think it needs a little bit of self-evaluation to figure out what areas they feel is going to be the most like gaping. I think you sense it, whether or not I need to eat better or I need to exercise a little more. So I think the first thing would be spend a little bit of time with yourself and to kind of self-reflect. And that's where some of the mindfulness practices come in, to be able to see how you're feeling. And from there, like having a better sense of how you're feeling, having that kind of guide you in the right direction. Is it food? Do I want to change? Because sometimes you're just not ready for that. Like, it's food, for example, but you're not quite ready to do that big jump in, food, for example. Then you would think, okay, well, maybe I'm more prepared to do something like physical. So maybe I'll sign up for a yoga class or whatever, a fitness class, and then kind of see how that feels for you and see what changes happen in your body and in your mind, or, how you feel after doing some of that, and reflect again as to, is this what I want? Is this making me feel better? Is it where I want to go? Or is it somewhere that, is it going to allow me to lead me to explore other things, something else that I may be needing or curious about? So I think a big part of it is just connecting to self, because in our world today, we're always on the go. We're basically connected to our devices and internet, and we're constantly on the run. Meetings, and even I, as I was coming here, I was in one location and had to get here. So, we're all guilty of running around, and just creating a little bit of space within ourselves and for ourselves to be able to understand, okay, what is it that I really need, what I think I need, and what do I want to do? Because we all have these grand ideas. Oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to look better this way. I want to have better skin, but then it's this big mountain that I've got to climb, and I'm not prepared to do that.
Correct.
So
I think you make a very good point, where people get overwhelmed very quickly and then they go the opposite direction. I think it's a very, very sound advice that, play around and see what works and what you're actually looking for, because the real question out there is exactly what I asked you before. What do I need to do now to change my life? And that's a very big question. So I think that's very, I think that's very sound advice. I was listening to a talk this week about relaxation and meditation. Maybe you want to give us a little bit on your insight in terms of relaxation and meditation, because one of the big elements that has always been and actually still exists more than ever is stress. And that's a big part of wellness as well. What is your take on that?
Definitely. I think, a great question. I think wellness, relaxation, this idea of like how we need to relax. Everyone, says you need to relax. You're stressed. You need to relax. And then you go back to the same question. How do I relax? What does relaxation mean to me? I can say to someone, okay, how are you sleeping? Or, is it more sleep? Or is it, doing a yoga class, or is it going for a run? It can mean, the definition could be quite wide depending on the individual. And I think with today's media and social media and what we're being fed from the exterior is this idea that we need to, lie down and do nothing kind of thing. And I think that, in some respects, that is a great piece of advice, or that's a great goal, but for some people that's just not possible.
Yeah.
I've had people, in front of me, and they're lying down, but they're not comfortable lying down. So, that for those type of people, I would say, well, maybe that's not what we're trying to do. That's not the idea of relaxation. It's just trying to find things. If it's like you need to be moving, well, what is an activity where you're moving that you can actually go into a more quieter space, where, whether it's a walk, or if it's you're going to go for a swim, something that's going to allow you to just bring it down a bit if you're not able to just like sit down, because this idea of like, then there's extra pressure. Like if you're sitting down and you have this idea that I've got to lie down, I've got to meditate, and then you're just beating yourself in your head. Like, here I am sitting,
Yeah.
just beating myself over and over again. And the time just goes, it just becomes torturous. And again, you're not achieving that objective of,
Yeah.
okay, how do we draw our nervous system into a more, instead of fight or flight or move mode, and then go in the opposite direction. So there's not just one definition. Like I said, it could be swimming, it could be going for a walk, it could be going to a dance class, if you want to have that movement aspect in it. So I think relaxation is just coming to understand who you are. And if lying down and meditating and, being what, in the images of, Zen, if that doesn't seem to calm your mind down, then finding something that is going to give you bring you into that space, and not where you're always like just beating yourself up over it.
Correct. I think you actually you hit the nail on the head, because it's not, you don't have to go and meditate and switch off and not, not hear anything around you. To relax, some people actually go and work out. Some people sit at work the whole day, stare at numbers, sit on telephones, and they have the stress of whatever their workload may be. And by going to the gym and lifting 100 kilos and sweating is actually their way of relaxing, but they feel good and they feel relaxed and revived. So again, it comes back to the first thing we spoke about. It's different things for different people, and you need to hit on different topics to find what works for you. And again, that's very difficult for both of us. We've been in the game for a long time. We've seen different things. We've tried different things. But I do agree with you that people do get overwhelmed very quickly.
Yeah, and in this idea of meditation, people ask me, what is meditation? And traditionally, again, we are bombarded with imagery, and traditionally, we think of monks, we think of, sitting in a quiet spot and sitting quietly. And yes, that is traditionally what was meditation. But that was back then. And, a lot has happened since, these practices first, came about.
Sure.
And how is that adaptable and being used in the lifestyles of people today? And therefore you see a lot of different kind of mindfulness. Now, there's meditation, and there's also mindfulness practices that work with different aspects, whether you're walking, whether you're eating, this idea of just tuning into your own self, giving yourself some space, whether if you're drinking your coffee or your cup of tea or juice, can you just slow down instead of just drinking all of it mindlessly? Can we slow it down just a little bit just to connect with self? And that can even be a meditation. It doesn't
Correct.
have to be where you're sitting for hours on end, because then again, this idea of our minds just keep going. And eventually, maybe that might happen sometime in the future. But again, what is accessible for that individual? and what can be their starting point, and encourage them to find that path. Because for some people it's quite easy, and for some people it's quite
Some
difficult.
people it's not. Exactly. I remember some time back when you did a retreat with us over here, and you kind of introduced me to mindfulness eating, and I was like, oh well, really interesting. And I was like, okay. And then a couple of months later, we had a group of monks come over, and I was invited to eat with them, and they obviously went ahead, and it was 300% mindfulness eating, where there was not a sound murmured for 20 minutes, but it was exactly that, the fact of the appreciation and the slowing down and the realization of what's going on around you. Like when you said drinking that water, what do we do when we're thirsty? We just gobble down a glass, or a soft drink, even worse. And when you drink water, you realize there's tastes and different feelings in the mouth, and it actually goes into the body. Maybe it gives the same nutritional benefit as whether you drink it fast or slow, but mindfully speaking, you appreciate it more, so there's definitely something in that. I'm living proof. And whenever I eat today, because I'm a fast eater, I always think about that, and it definitely, the concept and the realization of appreciation of what you're eating and what you're doing is really, really something. People, I would recommend people to try it. I really would.
Yeah.
Stare at the carrot and think about it. I was telling some people about this last week. Stare at that carrot and think, how did it get here? Where did it grow? How did it grow from the seed to the place, to your mouth? How was it cooked? How does it taste? What's going on in my body? And it's different. It's completely different to just cup, 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 cup and finish. So
Yeah.
there's definitely something in that.
Absolutely. Then, the people have this idea that, meditation is great for you, but then if the mind is not able to calm, and it is a training of the mind, this idea of sitting for hours, or, however length of time you want it to be, and allowing this mind to settle, that may just not happen for some people. And so I think meditation, again, it's evolved. This idea of sitting meditation has evolved. And, again, it's adapting it to whatever's accessible to you. And once you're able to feel comfortable with that, and then see where that leads you.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Maybe I can change the subject a little bit from meditation, although we were talking about mindfulness eating. I know you very knowledgeable on nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people know that they're not supposed to be eating candy and ice creams and sugar, but maybe you can give a little bit of insight in terms of what would you recommend people do to get away from killing themselves because what they're eating is not good for them. There you go, I said it.
Yeah, well, but then again, having, playing devil's advocate, I mean, we're also seeing the other extreme, right? Like there's always these trends in health and fitness where, you've got certain ingredients in vegetables that are like superfoods, and all of a sudden society and media attaches onto that, and all of a sudden, we go crazy. And I feel like sometimes we overdo it, like 1,000%, like where we're just eating kale, or we're just eating broccoli, or we now, do we all have to be a vegetarian, or do we have to be vegan, and all these, keto diets and all these different diets. And yes, sometimes these things work for people. Absolutely. I mean, the research and the science is there, and we've been fed this information, like don't drink Coke, sugar. Absolutely. I mean, I think that for me, nutrition is about never absolutely saying take it completely out like it's a poison. I think rather it's more, okay, what works for your body. And obviously there's some things you don't want to overdo. You don't want to overdo sugar, for example. You don't want to have all your foods sugary. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a piece of cake or a cookie, or, you need to enjoy life. I think it's absolutely essential, and we're humans, and we need, we want to be able to have that full spectrum in our mouth of all taste. So, I find that sometimes we tend to go in extreme, but I've also seen the extreme version where, if you're, really strict with just eating fruits or being a vegetarian. I mean, then the question is, but are you really getting all the nutrients? And, if you're eating a plant-based diet, that may work for some people, but for some individuals, that just doesn't work. They just need more protein in their bodies. But then, you don't want to be where you're a complete, like just eating only meat and not enough fruits or vegetables. So I think, again, it's all about creating that balance. Obviously, we know what is unhealthy, but that doesn't mean that it's forbidden. I think that's where the line goes. And it's great to do, a fast, but if that doesn't work for you and you don't have time for it, and it kind of, you go through this fast, for example, and then at the end of the fast, you're just eating everything at the end of it, you think, well, is it really worth it to do that fast? Maybe not. Maybe you need to do a different kind of fast where you're not completely eliminating everything. And at the end, where you can actually come out of the other side healthier, a little bit more balanced, because you just don't want to have that happen. So I wouldn't advocate for any particular diet or any particular type of food, other than, I think everything in moderation. And if it feels good and it works for you, I mean, obviously you don't want to overdo too much salt and too much sugar and whatever. But I mean, if you're lactose intolerant, obviously probably not a good idea to drink a lot of dairy, take in a lot of dairy products. But, you go into a wedding and you've been offered something that you haven't had for a really long time. I mean, yes, I mean, it's worth it to enjoy that piece of cake or whatever it is.
I think that's very important, because if you starve yourself, or I mean, you take the case of children growing up in an environment where they're not allowed something. The moment they're not with mommy or daddy and they're with their friends, they're going to have that something, because, I really want it. I really want it. And it's 100%, you're 100% right. People tend to go extreme and they starve themselves for 2 weeks and they go through pain and no pain, no gain. And then, they may lose a couple of kilos, their skin may be clearer and they may feel good, but invariably they go back to what they were doing before. And then, the value disappears. So it's very important. And I think this has been mentioned in every topic we've spoken so far, is moderation. Exactly like you said, what feels good. You need to play around. You need to try different things, because extreme, definitely, if you drink water for 6 weeks, you are going to get thin. I can guarantee that today. I'll put my head on a block, but you probably die of malnutrition as well. So, because you'll have so many organ failures in your body. So there has to be a balance. And there's a lot of temptation out there, and there's a lot of weddings, as you mentioned, unfortunately, and there's a lot of things that we haven't eaten for a long time. But yeah, it's a difficult one. But I think the way you put it into words of experimenting and being moderate and seeing what works and what doesn't work for you. Because yes, a lot of those diets and a lot of the information we read is for X and it's not for Y. And one person will lose a lot of weight and another person won't. I always say a very good example for balance. I mean, it's not a good example when we're talking about wellness, but it really hits home, is that somebody who smokes and does exercise is better than somebody who smokes and doesn't do exercise.
Yeah.
Sure, you shouldn't smoke. I mean, that I think we both agree on. Moderation or non moderation, you shouldn't smoke. You get enough on your scooter when you're on the road, or opening the window when you're driving. But I think that if you do something and something else to complement that, it's better than not having the complement at all.
Yes.
So yes, eat vegetables, and then, okay, so go ahead and eat some meat or eat some pizza or eat some fried food. That's fine, but compensate and find a balance. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, we offer juice cleanses, for example. And I said, it doesn't mean that you cannot not eat. I mean, no one's holding you to that. If you're absolutely in your mind, just like, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Okay. Start with a little bit of broth, vegetable broth, or a little bit of fruit or some nut milk, and see how that all kind of feels with you. if that kind of helps you calm down, because if your whole body is just in this, like, I'm fighting it, I just don't see the value of it, because at the end you've just been in this stressed mode. And this idea of relaxation is just to do the exact opposite, is just don't fight. Allow that body and your mind to fight. It's what is it that's going to allow it to actually do the exact opposite, which is just let yourself rest, feel safe. Let your mind and your nervous system feel safe. And I think that's really the key thing that the message that we miss when we talk about wellness is we go to like I said, these extremes, and without looking at who is this individual, what is their goals, and what is their lifestyle like? Is it going to be workable for them?
Sure. One other thing I'd like to ask you, last question, and then I'll let you do the closing. You were mentioning juicing. What are your views on intermittent fasting? Because that's another one that I think people have a bit of a misconception, and it could also be quite dangerous. Maybe some advice there.
Yeah, I think, again, it's like anything in health and wellness. It seems it's a trend. All of a sudden it's come up on the media, and there's been articles written about it, and it seems to work for some people. But then, everyone's on this bandwagon about, we've got to, not eat for a certain amount of period of time, but not everyone deals well with that. And especially when, you have really low sugar levels, and if you're pre-diabetic, any of those conditions, you're super low in energy, and you feel yourself like not being yourself, that just backfires. It doesn't work for those kind of individuals, where they're just so low in energy, and they're just going to eat themselves like from the inside out, essentially. And for some people, it's fantastic, but it works beautifully for them, where they can, like, for example, my body, I can go for hours. I can go like, without eating. I don't know. I just have that body type where I can do it, but I don't actually like say I'm just not going to eat. I think I'm just not hungry. Like, I just eat when I'm hungry, and I feel like, well, if it's 2:00 that I'm going to eat, then, because that's when I'm hungry, that's when I eat. But I mean, if you're hungry and you wake up and you're hungry and you're trying to delay this eating, I mean, it's also, what do you eat? Right? If you have huge, beans and bacon kind of breakfast, rather than something that's maybe a little lighter, and kind of, is it going to be fruit, or is it going to be just, salmon or whatever it is? It's fine. But again, it works for some bodies, and it backfires for others, where, where their body needs more nutrients, and they're starving themselves. And when it's time to eat, the body doesn't know how to react to, like, it's pumped, because it needs the nutrients.
Desperation.
And the body, now it's going into defensive mode, and it's got it's sending all these signals to the body, and putting in extra nutrients, and saying, okay, it needs to defend itself. And all of a sudden, like, 2:00 comes around, and they're eating a lot. The body's already gone to defense mode, and all of a sudden it's being bombarded again now, all of a sudden, with all these nutrients, and may not be the best nutrients. And then the body backfires. And so you get these responses where people are doing intermittent fasting, and they're just getting bigger. And that's what is happening to the body. So again, it doesn't mean if it works for one person, it would work for another person. So again, I think it just depends on, if it doesn't work for you, if it doesn't feel good for you, then maybe you should modify it. Maybe it isn't a full blown what we read. I mean, intermittent fasting could just mean a bunch of small little snacks, or, meals, or even a smoothie or whatever, instead of like a big, meal. So I think that's the danger of intermittent fasting. It works for some people, but not everybody.
I think that theme has come through our whole conversation today. Is it works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. Check it out, see what works, what doesn't work on a balance, play around. And don't open that book and just go, right, I'm going to stick with this for 6 weeks, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So I think that's very sound advice, that there's a lot of information out there, and everyone is the best in the world, and everyone's $1 million selling book, or this person did it, or that person did it. But at the end of the day, we all do have different DNA and different reactions and different activities and different levels of stress and different levels of fitness or age, and we can go on and on and on. Yeah. And it does play differently on each individual person.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it in fitness, like physical fitness. People are working out like crazy, 7 days a week, and they don't see a kilo off of them. I just don't understand how I'm working out so much and I don't lose anything. And it's like, yes, but maybe there's just too much. Maybe we need to bring it down to, like, instead of, again, it's your body's response. It's just on this defensive mode and it's needing something else. And because it's on defense, like I'm fighting, then it's not able to, because everything in your body is working to defend itself. And if you continue just to exercise and it's just not, it just keeps going into fight mode, it's just not able to do what it's supposed to do. So, maybe change up the exercise if you're doing it. Maybe just, again, maybe do something high intensity and then maybe try something else that's a little like less intensive and see how that works in your body.
From my days in the fitness world, now old man retired, losing all my hair. One of the things that I picked up, we had a lecture from a Russian biokinesist one day when I was studying. And one of the things he said is that adaptation, and your body will adapt very quickly to everything and anything. And you won't see results if your body adapts. So in the fitness world, it's very important to change your activities, to change your weights, to change your movements, to change, because your body will adapt to that and you won't see any progress. And I think it goes for many things within the physical, in the physical realm and the nutrition realm as well. You need to shock the system and you need to vary, again, like you've said right from the beginning, and find a balance. But yes, we are creatures of habit and we do adapt quickly, and then we do not see results when we reach that level of adaptation. Definitely.
Yeah.
Again,
and I think it's just, we're, like you said, it's just, we see it in the media and we think, okay, but let's try it. It may have worked for that person that we're seeing, but they don't see it reflecting in their own selves, like that you've tried it doesn't seem to work. Great, you've tried it, but then don't keep going because, it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah. Well, I think that really sums up what we've spoken about today is, have an open mind, balance, try different things out, what works for one may not work for another. And as you very mentioned right in the beginning, that yes, find out what you have. Happiness is another element. Self-happiness and self-awareness is very important. I mean, again, we can talk on that for maybe another 20 minutes together, yes. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll set up another session at another stage.
Yes. Yeah, thank you definitely. So much.
But I think, again, I'd like to thank you very much for your insights and your fantastic energy. I hope people can get a takeaway from this, and that it's some type of benefit for people looking for the answer, the golden rule, because there are no golden rules as we've been told today. And I think people can contact you as well at Mandala Wellness or directly on your LinkedIn or wherever, because you do give a lot of sound advice and sessions and things like that. And I would also like to mention to people that World Wellness Weekend will be on the 16, 17, and 18 of September this year. I am the ambassador for World Wellness Week in Vietnam, and we actually work together on that over the past few years. So around Vietnam and around the world, people are doing many sessions, physical, mental, environmental, nutritional, whatever it is, but it's all about what we've been speaking about today is get out there, do something different, make yourself healthy, happy, make the world a better place, and make the best of every situation. And I think the last thing I'll add, which you mentioned, is you need to be happy. You need to be in a good space. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. You summed it up beautifully, Hilton. Thank you so much.
I read the script. So again, thank you very, very much. And it's always a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to speak with you.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Rosanne.
you so much. Yes.